Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is iOLANDE Melody. Today's topic is going to be on the subject of relationships and why most modern relationships nowadays fail. And most importantly, how you can go against the grain and actually find a healthy relationship. Most of us have pretty much accepted the fact that there is something going seriously wrong in our society, especially surrounding relationships and dating. People love to say that we're so advanced and we have more knowledge than we ever have done. So why is it that every single new generation that comes in seems to have an even bleaker outlook on relationships and human connection? Loneliness has become beyond an epidemic at this point, and a lot of people take the stance that human nature is just inherently bad. But I'm here to tell you in this video that all of this is by design. And I am not just speculating, I will present you with the facts and you are welcome to make up your own mind. I believe it's really important for people to understand what kind of environment we're dealing with before they just go out and try and find a relationship. I don't believe that people are inherently bad, but what I do believe is that people are very easily influenced, and what we have at the moment is the result of masses and masses of people being influenced by programming. And if you know what to look out for, it will really help you save some time. Because I believe that if people are under this programming, they will not be capable of having a healthy relationship. Also, another thing that I see is massive division between men and women. And this was not here before. The mentality of people has changed so vastly, whereby it's almost as if men and women are completely pitted against each other. And again, this is by design. So let's first talk about the media. Don't you think it's really strange that most songs that you listen to nowadays are to do with heartbreak? If you were to compare the amount of songs made nowadays that were about breakups compared to actually just loving someone, you would find that there is a huge imbalance. Also, there are so many songs out there that parade themselves as love songs, and actually when you look at the lyrics, you'll find that it's actually about having an affair or loving someone else while you're in a relationship. Don't you think it's strange also how most artists seem to be singing from the same hymn sheet? No matter which artist you look at in pop culture, all of the women seem to be promoting the same ideology and the men are pushing in a different way. Most female pop artists will promote promiscuity, hating men. So many of them promote the idea of rinsing men for all their money and then being a hoe. And then when you listen to the male artists, especially in hip-hop, it's literally just looking at women like objects, utterly disrespecting women altogether, promoting the idea that the higher your body count if you're a guy, it somehow makes you a winner. And what's really strange is that if you were an alien looking at this world and you saw this, you'd be like, these people are insane. But because we see it so much in pop culture, because it is everywhere, all over the media, it has become normalised. So now, everybody in your day-to-day life starts emulating that. Because as humans, we are easily influenced. You really have to discern what is your own opinion and your own beliefs versus what you have been told or something that's been planted in your brain. I am not saying that I'm innocent in all of this. I've been through this. I got completely roped into feminism and I was miserable. And I've done videos about this in the past. You have to ask yourself, why is it that there are people who are from the previous generations who've managed to stay in a relationship for decades and they're still together now? And then you look at this day and age and divorce rates are higher than they've ever been. Broken families are now the norm, and most young people are single, miserable, and lonely. And then you look at the pop culture and the attitudes that people have towards the opposite sex are so different. The music that's being made, the films, there are certain belief systems that people in my generation speak of that are so backwards, and older people would listen to this and they'd be like, that is so twisted, right? One being the whole belief that monogamy isn't natural and that you look at animals and they just hop around and impregnate each other, and then, well, we're basically animals as well. We're not supposed to be in relationships, obviously. That's why they don't work. It's because relationships are unnatural. God help us. Seriously. The fact that people have got such a low view of human nature that they now call themselves animals. I mean, no offence to the animals. I love animals. I actually think that animals have more wisdom than humans at this point. But I digress. I started hearing people say this, the whole monogamy is a lie thing, a good few years ago now. The phrase has been making the rounds, circulating, and obviously is heavily pushed in films, etc. And then obviously, because so many young people now believe that monogamy is just completely unnatural and unattainable and unrealistic, now you have a whole generation of people that are so broken from being promiscuous and to the extent of ridiculousness. Our culture has become that sick that it's now normal for girls to be posting explicit content of themselves on the internet for money. That is apparently a normal job, right? We have entire generations of people that seem to believe that it is completely normal and healthy and fine to keep having one-night stands with random strangers, and that that is a lifestyle that is maintainable, and that you can also love yourself at the same time and have high self-esteem. See, what happens is that when you place such a limiting belief system on yourself that monogamy is impossible, it leads people down a path where they think, well, that's not an option. Therefore, the only other option is to sleep around. And what's really, truly tragic is that these younger people have no understanding of just how traumatizing this is. What it does to someone's self-esteem, what it does to them spiritually, mentally, physically, it is so destructive and can literally send someone crazy. I've said this plenty of times in previous videos, but sex is actually a sacred act. There is a spiritual exchange that happens every single time you sleep with someone. And if you're doing that with multiple strangers that all have different traumas, demons attached to them, it is a recipe for disaster, but most of you guys know this already. It doesn't matter whether you are male or female. If you are promiscuous, you are not a stable option as a partner, right? If I were to judge someone for having a high body count, it would not matter whether they are male or female, right? However, this isn't about judgment. What a lot of girls don't understand is, say for example, you've got a liberal girl that's a feminist and she wants to sleep around because she's given up on love and she has bought into the programming, developed a high body count, and then gets frustrated that no guy takes her seriously and no guy actually wants to tie down in a relationship with her, and she just keeps getting men that just want to use her for sex. These girls get frustrated because they think that they're just being judged and that the man is looking down on them because they've got a high body count. This is the missing piece. Regardless of how heartless people portray themselves to be nowadays, we all inherently, if we could, we want human connection. We want to be able to love. We want to be able to trust. If anyone is honest with themselves, they will admit that. Now, one thing that guys do, a guy who's actually open to a relationship full stop, pays attention to red flags. And I think that men actually are more in tune with their warning system than women sometimes. Whether men are conscious of it or not, a man will be very reluctant to entertain the idea of being in a relationship with a girl if there are telltale signs that she will not be faithful. I know to some people this sounds really obvious, but trust me, I believe a lot of younger girls don't understand this. They think that they're being judged if they have like an OnlyFans or if they're promiscuous, and they get frustrated and they think, oh, what we need to do is normalize it in society. No, right? No. Men will never change their perspective on this because I believe that it is actually an internal, primal thing. A man is not going to open his heart to someone if he thinks that that person is going to break it. It makes sense. That's why people say to women, play hard to get. The reason why it works, and by the way, you should never pretend to be hard to get. You should just be hard to get. But the reason why that works is because it assures the man. It actually reassures the man that you have self-respect, you have discernment, you're not easily swayed or influenced or swept off your feet. And that indicates to the man that all of his efforts that he's putting in are worth it. Because once he actually gets you, he knows that you're not going to be unfaithful, or at least he's pretty well assured that you won't be unfaithful. Because let's be real, doesn't matter if you're a player or if you're going through a bad bitch phase. Deep down, it would be better to just have a relationship with someone who is like your best friend and just be with that person. Is that not better if you're being honest with yourself? Just quickly going back to pop culture and artists, you have so many of these artists that are promoting being a single lady and just get your bag and all of this crap, right? They're in relationships. These women, Beyonce, literally wrote a song, Single Ladies, but she was in a long-term relationship the whole time. Does that not make you think that you're being played? Literally, people are being led down the garden path. By the way, if you're one of those people that's like, I know this, I don't need you to tell me this, I just want to find a healthy relationship, bear with, right? I need to get this off my chest. I need to express this so that everybody is up to the same point. So we've spoke about how monogamy is not a lie and how monogamy is actually very healthy and good for people. But there's also other catchphrases that are popular that still lead people down the garden path. There is this phrase that opposites attract, right? Now, in some respects, this is true, but I believe that a lot of people use this phrase to fit in with their own narrative or to delude themselves, or people take that phrase as gospel and they end up picking such wrong relationships, such wrong people to be with that are completely ill-fitting and not suited for them, all based on this belief that opposites attract. You've probably met people before like this. A couple that is so ill-fitting. They are complete and utter opposites. They have opposite belief systems. They have opposite taste. They may have said to you at some point, oh, well, opposites attract, we're so different. And I'm going to be really controversial here and say that this really isn't ideal. People who believe in this concept that opposites attract often end up in relationships with people where they have nothing in common with that person. Sometimes it can be complementary. Sometimes you can have a couple where their traits actually complement each other. Where one lacks, the other one fills in, and they both contribute positive things to the relationship that can be combined. But more often than not, what you find is the whole opposites attract thing ends up with people who are completely on polar opposite ends of the scale, and it doesn't complement each other. For example, let's say you're a raging conspiracy theorist and you're in a relationship with someone who walks around wearing a muzzle and they're on their 17th booster. In no way do I think that that would be a harmonious relationship. The level of the hours of arguing, unless these people are, have a lot of self-control and they just don't talk about their opposite belief systems, I really, really don't feel like that's harmonious. Why would you do that to yourself? Say, for example, if you're into fitness, like you're really, really into fitness and healthy eating, don't pick a partner that loves to go to McDonald's and is a couch potato. Often what you'll find is that in that type of scenario, where you've got two people who have completely different lifestyles, one of those lifestyles will dominate eventually. Either the fitness person will influence the couch potato to actually get into fitness, or the fitness person will lose motivation and become a couch potato. I'm not saying that people who aren't into fitness are couch potatoes. I'm giving extreme examples here. But I digress. Again. So if you have this belief that opposites attract in that way, what you will find is that you will actually tell yourself simultaneously that you wouldn't want to be with someone who's just like you, because where's the fun in that? Have you ever had a heated debate with someone and they've turned around to you and said, well, it's good that we've all got different beliefs, isn't it really? Because if we all thought the same, the world would be very boring. And I think to myself, sometimes it just causes more division. It would actually be, yes, of course, individuality and uniqueness is amazing, but it would also be more harmonious if everybody understood one another and everyone was on the same page about, I don't know, basic life things. You see, at the moment, we've got divisions between the sexes, the races, left, right, all of these things that people are getting divided over. And it's not interesting. It's not fun. It's shit. It's a waste of time having to have all of these debates and arguments with one another when we could actually be doing something more productive. We could be building something, improving the world. Anyway, what was the point I was going to make? Yes. When you are looking for a partner, despite what the mainstream tries to program you with, right? This is what I would say. The more things in common that you have with your partner, the better. Why wouldn't you want to be with someone who is like your best friend and also kind of like your twinny, you know? That is the goal, because then you both have the same interests, you both have the same beliefs, you become a force to be reckoned with. That's what power couples are, is they're two people that actually align with the same values. But again, the dogheads don't want this. They want people to be in unhealthy relationships that are disharmonious. They want people to believe that love doesn't even exist, that you can't trust anyone, that every marriage ends with divorce, and that monogamy isn't real. Step outside of the norm and do things the logical way. That's what I would say. And the good thing is as well, if you search or if you want to be with someone who is just like you, it's easier to actually find that, because all you have to do is be you. If I were to sum it up in one sentence, the main key reason why most modern relationships fail, it actually boils down to one simple thing: respect. That one element actually encompasses everything. If you do not have respect for yourself or your partner, you will face trouble in relationships. But you need to have both. You need to have a respect for yourself and your partner. You can't just have one or the other. And I'll tell you why. Because it creates an imbalance. There are plenty of girls that I know that have been in relationships with men that completely and utterly disrespect them, right? The girl respects the guy completely, worships the ground that he walks on, but he does not respect her, and she does not respect herself, because if she did respect herself, she would not allow him to treat her that way. She would probably have not even entertained the relationship in the first place. And the guy in the situation may think that he's winning, but trust me, eventually the gravy train will dry up and the girl will leave. The moment that they gain self-respect and their self-esteem rises again, they're gone. And if you look at it on a mass scale, you'll notice that there is a lack of respect between women and men. Most women in their 20s, if they're dating someone, literally from the get-go, they will be telling their friends every little detail about it, talking about the guy. They say things like, I don't have any loyalty to him because we're not in a relationship yet. And if you go in with that attitude, you've already screwed it up, because that is disrespectful. Now, I can say exactly the same for men. A lot of men are so disrespectful towards women. Again, they're showing their friends in-depth, intimate text messages between him and the girl that he's speaking to. How would you feel if you were like that about someone when you first got to know them and they ended up being the love of your life and your best friend in the whole world? Would you not feel guilty that that was your attitude towards them in the beginning stages? People don't think about that, because in this culture that we have now with dating apps, I've done a whole video about that. I'm sure you guys have seen it already, but the way that people date now through these dating apps, it completely and utterly dehumanizes people. It makes it so that it's like online shopping, but for people. And the attitude that people have is that you can just disregard people. It doesn't matter if you screw it up with one person because there's 100 million others for you to pick from. You could have a different date every single night. But let me ask you, is that fulfilling? Back in the day, and this is before I was even born really, but if you look at the older generations, there was a level of respect that people had for one another. Men would actually go out of their way to pursue one woman. He would pick one woman and he would push and push and push, and he'd buy her flowers, he would be a gentleman, and he would put that effort in because first off, that's what you did back then. And second off, there may be an infinite amount of women in the world, but he wanted that one woman. He had his own standard for what he specifically wanted in a partner. Now, one thing that always gets me about this modern dating culture is the idea that there is so much choice, right? I don't know about you guys, but I have always been very, very specific. But modern dating culture has this way of encouraging quantity. It's all... Oh. And a lot of modern dating coaches will actually give the advice that you should lower your standards if you're struggling to find someone. And I would say that's ridiculous. Depends what we mean by standards, but I personally believe that if you're not with a partner that you look at and think they tick all the boxes, then maybe eventually you won't still be happy with that person. Maybe you'll always be thinking that the grass is greener. This may trigger a lot of people, right? And I'm not predominantly talking about looks here. I'm talking about the whole package. For example, a lot of women have this really messed up belief that no man is faithful, that every single man out there will always have a wandering eye, and that the best thing to do is to just accept it and be cool with it. They think that every single man watches porn and that it's normal, and any guy that says that he doesn't watch porn is lying. This is so wrong. There are men out there that actually don't have a wandering eye. There are men out there that are faithful, that have self-control and discipline. But a lot of the time, if they're with the right woman, they won't need discipline to not cheat. It's so strange how people seem to keep regurgitating this belief system that we are basically a beast. We are an animal that just has animal instincts and we need to be unleashed. And it's like, how did this happen? People used to have self-control. People used to be disciplined. Don't get me wrong. There are many men out there that do not have self-control. There are thousands, if not millions, of men that watch porn. But that doesn't mean to say that it's actually healthy. That doesn't diminish the fact that porn is actually rotting their brain and changing the way that they are looking at relationships altogether and giving them sick fetishes that they wouldn't have had if they had have never went down that rabbit hole. Don't just think that just because something is normal and everybody is doing it does not mean to say that it's a good idea. So now that we've established that 99% of people are so messed up because of the culture, what do you do if you are a single person looking for a relationship in this climate? The first thing that's most important is that you're comfortable in your own company, and that while you are single but open to a relationship, try to get as comfortable as you can right now with being single. The reason being is that this puts you in the right energy for a healthy relationship. If you're comfortable with your own company and comfortable being single, you will not settle for a partner that is not suitable. You will be able to recognise any red flags and you'll be able to walk away with ease. And you also will not have that desperate energy. There's so many people out there that are serial monogamists. They cannot be single. They just hop from one toxic relationship to another. The reason being is that they are that desperate that they don't pay attention to the red flags at all. They get lost in the sauce, and oftentimes they're not actually attracted to the individual. They're attracted to how it feels to be in a new relationship. Two completely different things. Now, if you want to actually find a healthy relationship with a person who has self-discipline and self-respect and respects you, if you are in a desperate energy, you won't be a match to that person. Because similar to the point that I was making earlier about the girls with the high body count and how the men can sense it, that they're not going to be faithful, a person who has self-respect will not want to entertain being with someone who just wants to be in a relationship. A self-respecting person understands that that person is more attracted to a relationship than who you actually are. An ideal scenario is where you get two people who are comfortable with themselves, who are solid in who they are, and they get in a partnership because they actually have a bond with one another, not because they just want a relationship. I would never recommend that you lower your standards in order to find someone who will just do. And if you think about it, I'm sure you wouldn't want to be in a relationship with someone who sees it like they settled for you. You want to be with someone that looks at you and says, "You are my ideal partner." Wouldn't that make you feel more secure? Forget about what the odds say. You want to have a clear intention in your mind of the criteria of the person that you want to be with. And again, I must stress, this is less about looks and this is more about who the person is. What type of values do they have? A lot of people think that this might be a pointless exercise, but let me just say this. Literally write down every single aspect of your dream partner. I believe that it's completely possible to find someone who ticks every single box internally and is also attractive to you. Another thing is to be very wary of insecure people. Now, this might sound a bit harsh. I can tell you from personal experience that you may think that a friendship or a relationship with an insecure person is okay, and you might think that eventually you can reassure them enough and they'll overcome their insecurity. If a person does not work on their insecurity, they will sabotage every relationship that they come across. They will do it to themselves. I say this with passion because some of the biggest heartbreak that I have ever experienced has been all because of the other person's insecurity taking over their mind. And in this, like I say, I am referring to friendships and relationships. That's why sometimes I would say it's a good idea to try and date your equal or be with someone who has the same level of reassurance of themselves as you do. Because otherwise, if there is a huge imbalance going on, eventually that's going to cause problems. And it doesn't matter how attractive the person is. This is a misconception. Some of the most attractive people are actually the most insecure, and they don't seem to make any progress with it either. They don't really seem to have any interest in working on their issues, because instead what they've learned is that they can manipulate people and that they can just get what they want through manipulation. Be careful. Watch out for these people. They will ruin your life. So when you are dating someone or in the talking stage, pay attention to some of the phrases that they say. A lot of the time people will actually tell you who they are, but a lot of the time people don't listen. If you're in a relationship with someone who has trust issues to the point where they're asking to check your phone, they're paranoid that you're cheating on them all the time, they're stalking you, or simply just accusing you or making passive-aggressive jokes about you cheating on them, be careful. Because if they can't work through that issue, I mean, I'm saying people can change, of course, people can grow, but if they don't get over that, they will sabotage the relationship themselves. They will literally do it because the subconscious programming that they have is geared towards them screwing up the relationship, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People can get that fixated on something that they don't want that they end up actually creating it themselves. So I'm not saying that you can't be in a relationship with someone like this, but that's a potential red flag that a lot of people overlook. And people also think that, oh, if my partner's jealous and paranoid that I'm cheating on them, that's an ego boost to me because it clearly shows that they love me. And I'm like, this is not something to be messed with. Believe me, it's a lot less to do with you and it's a lot to do with them and their issues. So anyway, practical notes. Step number 1 is to know what to look for. Pick someone decent. Be hard to get, because that energy will attract someone who prioritizes quality over quantity. Put yourself out there. Now, I'm not saying that you can't meet someone online. There's plenty of people who have met partners online, more so on social media than dating apps. I think personally that dating apps are completely tainted, but I've heard of some people that have got relationships from there. Eventually it's ended up in like cheating and stuff, or you've always got the paranoia that that person is going to re-download the app and then start talking to someone else. I've seen that happen a few times, but ideally you just want to put yourself out there just for the sake of being social, because it simply opens doors. And it's good for your own confidence and your own self-esteem. And lastly, you want to mentally prepare yourself and make sure that when the right person does come along, that you're actually ready. And a lot of people don't really think about this aspect, but when you actually visualize being with a healthy person, someone who is secure, that doesn't play games, that sees through your bullshit, sometimes it can spark feelings of insecurity, inadequacy, fear. And the reason why I say this is because I have felt like this before. When I was in a dark place mentally, I didn't feel like I was good enough to be with someone who was actually mentally stable, because they would just see me as a complete hot mess. Now, obviously, I'm in a totally different place, but the key is to be really, really brutally honest with yourself, because if you're not, you won't be able to overcome this. If you can get to the point where you know that you are mentally stable, you don't have insecurities, and you're actually genuinely ready for a healthy relationship, you watch how fast that person manifests into your life. And sometimes it can be in the strangest, most simplest way, but I firmly believe that it can happen so quickly. So you need to be ready. Thank you to everyone who likes, comments, shares and subscribes. And also a huge thank you to everyone who's donated to this channel. It really does help a great deal. Love you, bye.